And hello, welcome back, YouTube, to this C++ tutorial. Okay, not exactly C++ tutorial, just C++ like introduction for OpenFOAM users. Now, just some updates, because I've been away for nearly a year, because I've been needing to do other stuff. And I mean, a lot of things, unexpected things happen. It's a crazy 2020. And lots of things, I've been doing lots of other OpenFOAM stuff, and as you noticed, I've also switched to Linux, like using that as my main operating system. I'm using Linux Mint now, so some of the things I do may be slightly different, but most of them you should be able to do within your Windows subsystem for Linux, if you are still going to use that. Though, of course, if you're going to do OpenFOAM for the long run, using Linux in general is still a better idea, whichever distribution you use. I like Linux because it's very easy to use, even compared to Ubuntu, because of this very Windows-like setup. Okay, so yeah, we were trying to add vectors the last time. Okay, we're trying to add some vectors the last time. So let's see. Yeah. Alright, we were trying to add vectors the last time, and I've been experimenting around with C++ behind the scenes just to get things done. But let's see. There's a file I call vector addition youtube.c++, and this is kind of where we stopped. Okay, this was kind of where we stopped the last time round. Okay, so we were trying to put in vectors into a function and have that function add the vectors together and hopefully churn out a result. Now the thing with C++ is that when it adds vectors, or in this case it is called arrays. When C++ adds arrays, it's more complicated than, let's say, doing it in MATLAB. In MATLAB, you can just take in arrays and vectors, and you don't really have a problem with that. The function can take in a vector or anything like that and churn it out and return this vector. But for C++, it is not that simple. Okay, so we have to kind of unlearn a few things from MATLAB and change accordingly. Now this is where we were left off, and the furthest we can go with the normal functions is to have a code something like this. I have a vector completed add.c++. Okay, and what it does is that it will take two vectors, add them together, and print out the results. But it is not able to return the vector. It's only able to return something called a pointer. Okay, or rather, it can only, practically speaking, all of this means is that it only returns the first row and first column of this vector. It cannot return anything else anymore. Okay, so there is something you need to pay attention to, especially if you add vectors of 2D and up, 2D array. So that's a binary file. Yeah, the way you add a 1D vector is kind of different from the way you add a 2D vector. Okay, but anyway, so this is a preview of what's coming up. So if you're confused by that, don't worry too much. I'll bring you step by step into stuff you need to learn about vectors, or at least adding vectors. These are basic things for C++, and while we find that eventually we'll not be able to use functions to add vectors very well, and we may need to move on to other methods. And one of these methods is to use classes and objects, which is the core crux of what C++ is about. You got to know how to use this thing called object-oriented programming. Alright, but that's a lot of new terms, but let's go through them one at a time. So let's pick up where we left off. Okay, let's go to vector addition, C++. Alright, so let's go through the code again. I'm pretty sure you should be familiar from the last video. We are trying to put into two vectors, and this actually helps us put in these two vectors. And previously we were adding vector lengths, and we don't want to do that now. So this kind of does not, this line I'm highlighting here does not kind of make sense anymore, because I'm trying to print out the length of the vector. But yeah, I guess I'll just comment that out, as well as this double L. I'll comment both of these out. Alright, and first thing first we want to do is, let's try and compile it. And by compiling it, or attempting to compile it, by attempting to compile the file, C++ or the compiler will give us all the errors that are occurring, and point us to where we need to do some corrections. So first I want to draw you to this part. It says that there is expected. We'll solve the easy bugs first, okay? Where these two I'm highlighting here are pretty easy. These are basically saying error. Okay, we expect a semicolon before the less than token, and what we were giving it was commas, so we have to kind of just be mindful of that. I need to actually get rid of those commas and replace it with semicolons. So let's do addition YouTube.c++. Okay, let's go there and let's get rid of the semicolons. Alright, let's get rid of the semicolons, and we'll try and compile it again, and then we'll have another kind of error. Okay, so first thing here, let's see this one. It says I cannot convert a double *1 to a double star for argument. Okay, so what is it saying here? It says double add results equals to vector add vector 1 and vector 2. Now what does that mean? Okay, so both of these will need to be defined as arrays of vectors, or the correct term is array, to be put into the function. So what do I mean by that? Okay, when I have vector 1 and vector 2 here, it needs to have these numbers 3 and 1. Okay, the row and column number. You need to tell C++, hey, I'm having an array of 3 rows and 1 column, in order to have this passed, to have it put into the function. So let's go and do it. Okay, let's change that. Okay, alright, this one needs to be a vector of 3 and 1. But you see vector 1 and vector 2 are already, okay, vector 1 and vector 2 are already defined here, so you don't really need to define it over here. But what we need to do is to, okay, let's see the error messages. Okay, so this is line 50, and yeah, okay, let me yeah, so that error specifically was over here, because these two what do you call that? These two variables are different. This vector 1 and vector 2 are arrays of 3 rows and 1 column. Okay, but what this function is expecting is a vector A, and then these two brackets here. Okay, you kind of need to say that this is okay, because if you give it this kind of generic array definition, okay, how do I put this? How do I slow down? Okay, alright, so we talked about putting in vectors into some function like so. We are defining a function called double vector add, and it's having 2 inputs. One is a array of vector A, and these elements will be double, and you also have an array of vector b, and this will also be a double. All right. But the thing with C++ is that when you define arrays, what C++ will actually let me use GIMP. It's a little easier. All right. Yeah. All right. So let's say you have a vector of 1, 2, 3. All right, or an array or vector, however you call it. All right. Each of these numbers are stored somewhere. All right. They'll be stored in your random access memory, or RAM. Okay, and each of these numbers will be given a specific memory address. Okay, so in your RAM, your random access memory, each of these numbers will have a specific address to it. So let's say this is address 1, okay, or address A, this is address B, this is address C. Okay, so I'll say, okay, let me assign a value of 1 to address A, a value of 2 to address B, and a value of 3 to address C. What are these addresses? It means that somewhere on your RAM, okay, there's an actual physical, I guess, a physical place where you have to tell the RAM to store this data value. So how does the RAM know where to, how does your computer know where to store it? It will go by these addresses. These are memory addresses. Okay, so these are memory addresses. Okay, and how C++ usually defines this array. Okay, there'll be an array. How does it define this array? Okay, the array is defined by taking the memory address of this one. It takes the memory address of the first row and the first column. All right, it takes this memory address and it stores it as a variable. Stores it as a variable. So whenever you call an array, what C++ is actually looking for is it will take this memory address here. Okay, it will take this memory address and go and search in your random access memory, your RAM, and it will search for the value being stored at this memory address. Okay, so this memory address will point C++ to this actual value over here, which is, for example, 1. And this is what this is the rough concept of what a pointer is. Now, if you want to know more details of what that is, you can go and look at some C++ tutorials here. This one's by the New Boston. His name is Bucky. It's really good tutorials. I learned some of the stuff from there. So you can go and look at things over here to what are pointers. These are tutorial 38, 39. If hopefully these tutorials will still be on YouTube. Okay. Yes. So yeah, this is basically what C++ will do. Okay, so when you define an array, what C++ will kind of register what the array is, or how C++ knows it is an array, or rather, when you call the array, you're actually calling this pointer, this memory address, to show the first row and first column. So where does this array come in? Okay, you see this thing called a double star 1. Okay, double star 1. Okay, double star 1, this is like a 2D kind of array. Okay, and then what it is trying to convert to, it is this double star. Double star is a so-called 1D array. So you have to make sure that yeah, your array dimensions are the same when you start defining your function. Because when I actually define this function like so, double vector A, it's only expecting an array of one dimension. And where does this pointer thing come in? It actually, when you see this double star over here, okay, when you see this double star over here, this is actually the pointer of this particular vector. So this is what, or this particular array. So that's what I was actually trying to discuss just now. Because arrays are a little wonky with C++, or rather, it's not wonky, that's just the way it works in C++, and it does not work the same way with MATLAB. So you kind of had to give it a few extra steps, because C++ likes to work with this pointer concept. So that makes it a little more troublesome for C++ to parse arrays into functions. So what do you need to do to remedy this problem? Very simple. Just make sure you have your actual dimensions here in your vector 1 and 2. So this vector edge should have a vector A of 3 and 1, vector B of 3 and 1 over here, so that when you pass in these two vectors of this number of row and columns, it will work nicely and you won't have this other problem there. Alright, so okay, let's try again, compile again, and okay, you'll see that some of these errors are a little bit different here. Okay, so this is C++ line 40. Okay, so let's go to, oops, sorry, line 40. Where is line 40? Line 40 is over here. Again, this is this is still a problem here. Okay, so what can we do? Okay, what can we do? The next thing to do is to make sure, okay, your array dimensions over here are also specified. So you kind of need to specify both of these as well in order to get it working. So 3 and 1. Likewise, vector B here needs to also have this 3 and 1. So that helps to remedy this situation and helps C++ to work around this pointer issue thing. And now with 1D arrays you need one set of pointers. With 2D arrays you need two sets of pointers. So that's roughly the idea of what's going on. So that's why you need to be very precise with your vectors, and you can see it makes it more difficult to work with functions. But let's try compiling it and see whether there are any other errors. Okay, so it says something here. Array must be initialized with a brace enclosed initializer. Okay, and what else do we have? In function double vector add blah blah blah. Vector 1 was not declared in this scope. So let's do something here. These two parts. Let's get rid of. Let's see whether you can get a vector. Let's get the function working at least. Okay. So what is it saying here? I'm looking for vector 1 over here, but there is no vector 1 because there's only vector A and vector B as being defined. So we'll need to change this vector 1 to vector A. Now, of course, since we want to add, I have not actually done the adding part yet. So I'm going to give it a space just for neatness sake. I'll have I and 0 for this vector B, and that should about do it. Okay, so that's one. Okay, so that gets rid of this error over here. Okay, so the other thing is that, okay, over here, this returning vectors through a function is just not possible. The only thing you can return is a pointer. Okay, because a vector is like, or a vector or array is like a set of multiple values, and your function can only return one of these values. So if you try to return 2 or 3 of these values to the return function, it's not going to work. Okay, so what do we need to do then? Okay, so the only thing we can do is to return the pointer. So return the pointer is to just give it this star over here. Okay, return star vector at result, and that's all you can do. Okay, that's all you can do. Alright, so which kind of is not so good, but okay. We need to work within these limitations. Okay, so let's see whether we can compile, and now it gives us this other problem. It says error, I cannot convert double star to double in return. So double star is actually a pointer. Okay, my time is up. Double star is actually a pointer, but what C++ is expecting is this thing called double. Alright. Okay, so double star is the pointer, double is an actual value. So remember, we're talking about pointers here. Pointers are the memory addresses, which are not actual values. They're the places where the values are added. So this is the kind of data that it's being returned, because when I put a star and ... a star vector at result, I'm actually giving the pointer rather than the actual value. Okay, so for now I'll stop. It's a fair bit to explain. I'm actually crash coursing a lot of data in, because I'm talking about arrays, I'm talking about pointers, which I have not introduced before. But these are rough concepts that you'll need to know if you want to keep going on with arrays and adding them together. Okay, so we'll keep working on this code until it works. All right, so I'll see you in the next video. Hopefully we can kind of get this code to take off the way we want to. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys again. Bye bye.